Good afternoon. I would like to start a conversation. I'm not quite sure how to do it, but I figure for this initial topic, this would work. I think I am going to organize this much the same way as Thomas Powell's channel looks like it's organized. I'm broke and I really don't have a lot of knowledge on how to do let me try that again. I'm broke and I really don't have a lot of knowledge on how to do video publishing. So basically we're just going to use my webcam, and I'm not going to do a lot of editing, at least in the beginning, because I just don't know how. I want to start with the very first topic. The topic I would like to begin with is the right to exist. I find that actually causes a lot of conflict. Conflict in general, I'm in favor of. You cannot grow without conflict. Growth only occurs through conflict. The problem is everyone's definition of conflict is different. And to be quite frank, I like intellectual conflict. I do, on occasion, see need for other types of conflict. Everything has its place. But intellectual conflict, I find, works extremely well when you want to grow. And I think, especially now, as a society, we need to grow. I want to be honest and point out that I don't have any answers. Just like the rest of you, I'm making this up as I go along. But I think a good place to start would be this idea of the right to exist. It's not going to be very long because it's a pretty simple argument in my mind to clear up. If an idea, a form of life, a lifestyle, if it exists, it has the right to exist. And I think that's pretty much the end of the argument. If I can point to it existing, it obviously has the right to exist. And that includes stuff that I violently disagree with. So, begin there. This part of the discussion is now over. If any of you have any ideas, I would love to hear them, whether I agree with them or not. I want those ideas to be logically sound and preferably fact-based. The next topic I want to get into is freedom. This is a much more complicated topic, I think. There's a lot of definitions of freedom. The problem is all of those definitions tend to be over-specialized. And the definition that I heard in a movie once about some South American revolutionary. The movie isn't memorable, so I can't tell you what the title of the movie was. But the writer defined freedom as the right to choose your own chains. And again, understanding language is a living thing, and therefore the definitions of those words will eventually change. But I think the underlying idea, the fact that freedom is the right to choose your own chains, is always going to hold. We have the choice on who and what we want to be and who and what we want to associate with and how we execute those things that we want to do. Again, if anyone would like, I would love to go into greater detail. But I think for now, this is about as far as I need to go with this particular topic as well. In future videos, when I reference freedom, I actually mean the right to choose your own chains, to make your own decisions on what rules, what set of ethics, what set of morals you choose to live by. Please be aware that I draw a distinction between ethics and morals. So when I say this, I'm generally atheist, which means that I live by a code of ethics, not a code of morals. Morals refer to a religious structure. And since, as a rule, I'm atheist, I don't really have a religious structure to point to. For those that are confused, the difference between ethics and morality, or a secular way of life and a religious way of life, I may define in another video. At this point of time, I'm not prepared to discuss it. It's much too lengthy and much too detailed. There's too many things to cover, and I just don't want to get bogged down in those types of details. Suffice it to say, let me try that again. Suffice it to say, when I use the term freedom, I mean, unless otherwise specified, the right to choose your own chains. Something that I try very hard to apply to everything in my life is the principle of incompleteness, as defined in mathematics. I think there are people who are better suited to explain what this means. Holly Krieger from Numberphile, Grant Sanderson from, I want to say 3 brown, 1 blue, or maybe it's 3 blue, 1 brown. But the definition of incompleteness is that you can't independently define something, and or in any system, the entirety of the variable structure cannot be known. A good example of this is when Euclid talks about axioms. Euclid wrote axioms because he couldn't define the terms he was talking about. I find the easiest way to explain this is with the definition of a point. Define a point without talking about a point. You'll discover you can't do it. For the vast majority of us, especially in the context of mathematics, we define a point as a space. Let me correct myself. We define a point as a structure in space and time. The problem with that is a structure in space and time exists in a volume. And you'll discover that you're actually defining things backwards. A volume is an infinite collection of planes. A plane is an infinite collection of lines. A line is an infinite collection of points. So you end up to where your definition becomes circular. Euclid found a way around that without actually defining the point. He said, well, we're just going to say points exist. And there are some things where you have to do that with. Thus, no thought can actually be intellectually complete. So, those concepts, the concept of intellectual conflict, the concept of incompleteness, and the concept of freedom, as I've defined them, will define all of my videos going forward. Or at the very least, I will make my very best effort to have those define my videos going forward. Now I have to pick the next topic. So, hopefully, I'll hear from you all next time.